Think of life as a video game you've been running on default mode your whole existence. You're grinding through the stages while someone else figured out the cheat codes years ago. Carl Jung decoded the underlying source code of the human mind, and what he found shifts everything. Today, I'm showing you how to break into the mechanics of life using Jung's blueprint that most people never stumble upon. But here's the real twist. What if the person you believe you are isn't actually you at all? What if you've been playing as a character someone else built, following rules you never chose, chasing goals that were programmed into you long before you could form your own thoughts? Jung spent his entire career watching people wake up to this realization. And when it happened, everything shifted. Let me show you exactly how this functions. Most people move through life wearing a mask without ever noticing it. Jung called this the persona. It's the social character you perform every day. The professional version of you at work, the obedient version with family, the pleasant version with friends. You've poured so much effort into perfecting this mask that you've forgotten a real face exists beneath it. Here's where things become dangerous. When you fully merge with your persona, you create what Jung referred to as the perfect person problem. You become so molded by social expectations that you lose all sense of your genuine self. You know precisely what to say, how to behave, what expressions to display. But this polished exterior hides a frightening hollowness. Think about it. How often do you voice what you actually believe instead of what others want to hear? How many of your everyday choices reflect who you truly are versus who you're supposed to be? The persona itself isn't harmful. We need it to operate within society. The danger comes when the mask becomes the only identity you acknowledge. Here's what Jung uncovered that changes everything. Every part of yourself you suppress to maintain that perfect image, every forbidden thought, every blocked desire, didn't vanish. They collected in your unconscious like pressure inside a sealed container. Jung called this pile of rejected material your shadow. Your shadow holds everything you were conditioned to dismiss about yourself. Your potential for cruelty, selfishness, manipulation, anger, and deceit. Most people spend their entire existence fleeing their shadow, terrified of what they might uncover if they examine their darker traits. But Jung discovered something groundbreaking about the shadow. The shadow isn't evil. It's simply unconscious. And anything that stays unconscious controls you from the background. This leads to the most dangerous psychological mechanism Jung ever identified: shadow projection. When you refuse to recognize your shadow, your unconscious mind projects those denied traits onto others. Suddenly, everyone around you looks manipulative, selfish, or cruel. You can spot these qualities clearly in others while remaining blind to them in yourself. The person you accuse of deception is reflecting your own unrecognized capacity for deceit. The friend you call selfish is mirroring your own unadmitted selfishness. Jung noted that everything that frustrates us in other people can guide us toward understanding ourselves, if we're willing to look inward instead of staying focused outward. This is the first major cheat code in the game of life. Stop projecting your shadow onto others and start integrating it consciously. Shadow integration doesn't mean becoming cruel or selfish. It means admitting that you possess every human quality you notice in others. You hold the potential for manipulation, violence, betrayal, and destruction. Acknowledging this doesn't make you immoral. It makes you whole, someone who can see clearly without denial. When you integrate your shadow, something extraordinary unfolds. You stop being rattled by other people's behavior because you recognize those same possibilities within yourself. You stop placing your denied traits onto innocent people. You stop unconsciously doing the very things you judge in others. But the persona and shadow are only the beginning. Jung found that beneath your personal psychology lies something far deeper: archetypes. These are ancient patterns shaping human experience across all cultures and eras. The hero, the sage, the caregiver, the warrior, the lover. Every human being has access to these same foundational structures. Here's why understanding archetypes becomes a real-life upgrade. These patterns carry immense power and insight, but also immense danger. When your small personal ego identifies with a gigantic archetypal force, Jung called this ego inflation. The person fused with the savior archetype believes they must rescue everyone. The one overtaken by the warrior archetype perceives enemies everywhere. Ego inflation leads to what Jung called archetypal possession. Your personal identity dissolves, replaced by something ancient and impersonal. You're no longer yourself. You become a channel for transpersonal energies you can't contain. The possessed person feels extreme clarity and purpose, but they lose touch with human limitation and nuance. The real hack is learning to work with archetypes without being swallowed by them. You can draw on the warrior's courage without turning violently aggressive. You can use the sage's insight without slipping into spiritual arrogance. You can embody the lover's passion without dissolving every boundary. Jung called this a conscious relationship with archetypal forces. At the center of all these patterns, Jung identified what he termed the self, not your ego, not your small everyday identity. The self with a capital S, the full structure of your psyche, both conscious and unconscious, personal and archetypal. The self is the organizing core of your entire psychological system. Most people never encounter their self directly. They're too fused with their persona, too busy projecting their shadow, too overwhelmed by archetypal patterns. But Jung discovered that the purpose of psychological development is moving toward the self. He called this path individuation. This is the ultimate life hack. Individuation is the process of becoming a psychologically whole human being. Not flawless, not enlightened, not superior, just authentically and entirely yourself. Here's how Jung outlined the individuation path. And this is where everything converges. Phase 1 of individuation is recognition and differentiation. You must first discern what belongs to you and what belongs to others. It sounds straightforward, but most people have no idea where they end and others begin. You've internalized your parents' values, cultural beliefs, social expectations, and assumed all of it was you. The first task is creating boundaries between your true inner experience and the external material you absorbed unconsciously. Jung encouraged his patients to spend time in complete solitude each day, allowing the borrowed material to settle so they could hear their own authentic psychological voice. This is how you begin noticing the difference between what you genuinely believe and what you were conditioned to believe. Jung saw that many people possess what he called superior perception. They detect patterns others overlook, sense hidden emotions instantly, recognize lies on the spot, and feel unconscious tension in any room. If this sounds familiar, congratulations. You have an advanced psychological feature most people never activate. But superior perception carries a real danger. People with intensified perception frequently become overwhelmed by unconscious material from others. They absorb external psychological content until they no longer know where their own emotions end and the environment begins. Jung called this participation mystique, a state where psychological boundaries collapse. The recognition stage of individuation requires realizing that your superior perception isn't a flaw. It's an advanced stage of consciousness development. You're not damaged because you notice what others ignore. You're simply psychologically ahead. The question is whether you'll learn the skills to integrate that perception consciously. Phase 2 of individuation is shadow integration. This is the moment you stop fleeing your darker aspects and start confronting them. Remember, people who easily spot others' shadows usually do so because they're unaware of their own. The more you deny your potential for cruelty, deception, or selfishness, the more disturbed you'll be when you see those traits in others. Shadow integration means accepting that you contain every human quality you perceive around you. This doesn't make you immoral. It makes you whole. When you integrate your shadow, you stop projecting it onto others. You stop unconsciously repeating the behaviors you consciously criticize. You stop living as a puppet manipulated by your rejected inner aspects. Phase 3 is conscious participation. This is where you learn to use your abilities without losing yourself. If you have superior perception, you learn to engage with other people's unconscious material without becoming swallowed by it. If you tap into archetypal energies, you learn to access them without becoming possessed. Jung wrote that the individuated person serves as a bridge between the conscious and unconscious, helping others make the unconscious conscious, without sacrificing their own psychological stability. This demands developing what he called psychological containers, the capacity to hold others' unconscious contents for a moment while staying fully aware that they are not yours. The result of successful individuation is what Jung called the culture carrier or pioneer of consciousness. You become someone who evolves collective awareness, not through preaching or forcing, but simply through embodying more conscious ways of being. Your presence becomes transformative because you're no longer unconsciously acting out denied patterns. But Jung also documented serious traps that sabotage individuation. One is the inflation trap. When someone identifies with their strongest function instead of integrating it into a balanced personality, highly perceptive people often fall into what Jung called the prophet complex, believing they must awaken everyone else. This leads to preaching, judgment, and isolation. Another trap is withdrawal rationalization. Some individuals use their heightened perception to justify abandoning society completely, convincing themselves that others are too unconscious to engage with. Jung viewed this as spiritual superiority disguised as wisdom. True individuation requires interacting with the unconscious world, not escaping it. The most dangerous trap is what Jung termed the helper's high. Some perceptive individuals become addicted to being needed, defining themselves entirely through their ability to perceive and assist others, losing touch with their own inner development. When perception turns into identity, the person disappears behind the function. Jung studied historical figures to understand why some achieved true integration while others collapsed psychologically. He observed nature's ability to pierce through social, religious, and philosophical facades with brutal clarity, yet noted that nature never learned how to integrate these insights in a constructive way. Instead of directing his perception toward healing, he turned it into a weapon against the world. Nature's isolation and eventual collapse illustrated what happens when superior perception remains unintegrated. The individual becomes swallowed by what they perceive instead of transformed by it. In contrast, Jung closely studied Meister Eckhart, the medieval mystic who possessed what Jung described as mystical intuition, the ability to sense spiritual and psychological realities inaccessible to most. Unlike nature, Eckhart used his insights in service of compassion. He converted his heightened perception into wisdom that could support others without overpowering them. He saw deeply, yet expressed his insights in ways that encouraged understanding instead of resistance. Jung observed that Eckhart succeeded because he embodied conscious humility, recognizing that superior perception is a gift meant to be shared responsibly, not wielded destructively. Most importantly, Jung documented his own battle with overwhelming perception during what he called his confrontation with the unconscious from 1913 to 1919. His intense awareness of unconscious material, both personal and collective, nearly destroyed him until he learned to integrate these experiences consciously. Jung's breakthrough occurred when he realized that his overpowering perceptions were not symptoms of illness, but signs of evolution. They revealed consciousness trying to advance beyond the limits of a collective psyche. This insight transformed his work with patients who had similar abilities. He understood they weren't suffering from madness. They were experiencing the expansion of consciousness without the skills needed to integrate it. This brings us to the ultimate life hack Jung uncovered. Unintegrated perception or unintegrated shadow will destroy you through isolation or psychological collapse. But when consciously integrated, these same forces turn you into exactly what humanity needs. The hack isn't about rewriting the game's rules. It's about transforming yourself so you can play the game at its highest level. Consider Nietzsche versus Eckhart. Both possessed extraordinary perception. One used it destructively and fell apart. The other used it constructively and became a source of wisdom for centuries. The difference wasn't in what they could perceive, it was in how consciously they integrated what they perceived. The final state Jung described as love, with boundaries and conscious humility. You can care deeply for others while still protecting yourself, absolutely. You can perceive everything without growing bitter. You can love profoundly without dissolving your identity. This is the winning condition in the game of life. Here's what Jung wanted you to remember. You're not too much. You're not damaged because you notice what others overlook. You're not unstable because you feel what others cannot. You are ahead of your time, and the world urgently needs people who can perceive what collective consciousness doesn't yet recognize. But perception without integration destroys. Gifts without wisdom become burdens. Superior function without balance becomes isolation. The real danger isn't in perceiving everything. It's in failing to use that perception responsibly. This is why Jung devoted his life to mapping individuation. The game of life contains hidden mechanics that most people never discover. Your persona is merely a character skin, not your authentic identity. Your shadow holds disowned power, not inherent evil. Archetypes offer access to transpersonal wisdom if you avoid being possessed by them. And the self represents your fullest potential for psychological wholeness. Individuation is the cheat code Jung left behind. Recognition and differentiation teach you what is truly yours versus what you've absorbed unconsciously. Shadow integration prevents you from sabotaging yourself through denial. Conscious participation lets you use your abilities without being devoured by them. And final integration produces what Jung called the complete human being. You were meant to master this game, not suffer through it on default mode. Every person you've admired who seemed to operate on a higher level discovered some version of what Jung mapped so precisely. They learned to integrate instead of suppress. They learned to use their shadow instead of being manipulated by it. They learned to access archetypal power without collapsing into inflation. The beauty of Jung's work is that it isn't abstract theory. It's a practical roadmap for psychological transformation based on decades of clinical observation. Jung watched countless patients evolve from unconscious puppets into conscious participants. He recorded the exact stages they followed, the exact traps they encountered, and the exact transformations they achieved. So here's your mission. If you're willing to accept it, start seeing your persona as a tool rather than your identity. Begin acknowledging your shadow instead of projecting it outward. Learn to engage with archetypal energies without letting them take you over. And commit to the individuation process Jung mapped out. This isn't a quick fix or instant awakening. Jung emphasized that individuation is a lifelong path requiring ongoing conscious effort. But every step toward integration increases your conscious influence over your own life. Every shadow trait you recognize stops exerting unconscious control. Every projection you reclaim restores power back to you. The game of life stops being something that simply happens to you and becomes something you actively participate in. You stop being driven by unconscious forces and start becoming a deliberate creator of your experience. You stop reacting automatically to emotional triggers and begin responding consciously to what life presents. Jung's final insight was that individuated people don't retreat from the world. They engage with it more intentionally. They help evolve collective consciousness not by erasing their individuality, but by developing it so fully that it becomes a gift to others. This is how you hack the game of life, not by running away from it, but by mastering it from within. Your perception isn't a burden. Your sensitivity isn't fragility. Your ability to notice what others overlook isn't a flaw. These are advanced features of human consciousness that Jung dedicated his life to understanding and integrating. The real question isn't whether you have these traits. The question is whether you'll cultivate the wisdom required to use them. Life is a game with concealed mechanics. Jung decoded those mechanics and handed us the manual. Most people spend their lives playing on default mode, never realizing they could alter how reality functions for them. But you're different. You opened this video because something in you already knows there's more to life than what you've been conditioned to believe. The hack is straightforward, but not effortless. Know yourself fully. Integrate what you've rejected. Use your abilities consciously and keep moving towards psychological wholeness. That's how you win the game. Jung discovered that victory doesn't come from perfection, but from becoming entirely, authentically, and consciously yourself. Now, you have the blueprint. The only remaining question is whether you'll actually apply it. If you found this meaningful, share your biggest insight in the comments. Tell me which part of Jung's framework resonates most with you. And if you're ready to dive deeper into hacking reality using psychology, philosophy, and ancient wisdom, subscribe for weekly content designed to challenge everything you think you know. Thanks for watching. See you in the next dimension.